On the narrow trails winding across rocky mountains, there are resilient creatures silently carrying goods without a single complaint. Their long ears stand upright, listening carefully to distant echoes. At first glance, many people might call it a donkey, but after taking a closer look, others would say it is a mule. In fact, telling these two animals apart is not easy for most people. So, are you confident you can spot the difference between them? Watch this video to find out. The donkey, whose scientific name is Equus asinus, is a member of the horse family, Equidae. It was domesticated by humans between 5,000 and 7,000 years ago. Its ancestors were wild African donkeys, which survived in harsh, arid environments where only the most enduring species could make it. This origin is exactly what gave donkeys their well-known toughness. Over thousands of years of history, this seemingly humble animal has become a reliable working companion, closely tied to the development of ancient civilizations like Egypt and Mesopotamia. And even today, it continues to play a quiet role in the daily lives of rural communities. Currently, it is estimated that there are more than 40 million donkeys in the world. About 96% of them live in developing countries. In these places, donkeys still play an essential role, plowing fields, hauling goods, and transporting agricultural products and everyday necessities across terrains where machines cannot easily reach. In contrast, the mule is not a naturally occurring species in the course of evolution. It is the result of intentional crossbreeding between two different animals, a female horse, or Equus caballus, and a male donkey, or Equus asinus. A mule carries the physical traits of both of its parents. Its head and thick, large ears resemble those of a donkey, while its body is taller and more muscular, almost like a horse. However, the key difference lies in genetics. Horses have 64 chromosomes, donkeys have 62, and mules inherit a middle number, 63 chromosomes. This odd number prevents chromosomes from pairing up properly during reproduction, which means that mules are almost always sterile and unable to reproduce. Throughout history, there have been extremely rare cases of mules giving birth, but only about 60 instances have ever been recorded worldwide since the year 1527. In other words, donkeys reproduce naturally, while mules are hybrid animals that cannot sustain their own population. They exist only through individual breeding events and do not form a stable species in evolutionary terms. What is fascinating is that this unique hybrid origin actually gives mules some remarkable advantages. By inheriting the best qualities from both parents, mules tend to possess superior strength, endurance, and stability. Science calls this hybrid vigor, when a crossbred animal displays stronger traits and fewer weaknesses than either of its parents. For a long time, people who work with animals have known that mules are usually stronger and more durable than donkeys, while also being calmer and more cautious than horses. They are less impulsive and less likely to panic. This balanced combination has made the mule one of the most valued working animals in human history. At first glance, donkeys and mules may seem almost identical. Both have long ears, large heads, and short coats, which can easily fool anyone observing from a distance. But if you look more closely, there are some key features that help tell them apart. First, their size and body shape. Donkeys are usually more compact, with an average shoulder height of about 35 to 47 inches, or roughly 90 to 120 centimeters, and even the largest breeds rarely exceed 55 inches, or about 140 centimeters. Mules, born from a horse mother, are typically taller and more robust, standing between 47 to 67 inches, or about 120 to 170 centimeters tall, depending on the horse breed. Donkeys tend to have straight, flat backs, while mules have slightly arched backs, resembling a horse's shape but not as pronounced. Overall, mules give the impression of being taller and sturdier than donkeys. If you observe the head and ears, the differences become more noticeable. Both animals have short heads, broad foreheads, and long ears, but donkey ears are often longer, wider, and stand farther apart, with clearly defined dark tips. These oversized ears are not just a visual feature. They allow donkeys to hear sounds from as far as 1.8 miles away, which is about 3 kilometers, especially across open landscapes. Mule ears, though still longer than a horse's, are shorter and more narrow than a donkey's, with a shape that leans closer to a horse's. One small but helpful detail: donkey ears almost always have black fur at the tips, while mule ears rarely do. Next, let's talk about the coat and color. Donkeys usually have short, coarse, rough fur, commonly in shades of gray or dusty brown. Black or white donkeys are relatively rare. Mules, thanks to their horse heritage, tend to have smoother coats and a wider variety of colors, from brown, black, and gray to spotted or patched patterns like a horse. While their fur textures may differ, both donkeys and mules typically have short, upright manes, unlike the long, flowing manes of horses. One of the easiest ways to tell them apart is by looking at their tails. A donkey's tail is narrow at the base, mostly covered in fine hair along its length, and ends in a tuft that looks like a small broom. In contrast, a mule's tail is thick and full, covered in long hair from base to tip, much like a horse's tail. So, if you see a thin tail with a tuft only at the end, it likely belongs to a donkey. A full hairy tail from top to bottom usually belongs to a mule. Donkeys also carry a unique ancestral mark, a cross-shaped stripe on their backs. It is a dark-colored stripe that runs down the spine and crosses the shoulders, visible in most donkey breeds, inherited from wild African donkeys. Mules rarely have a clear cross mark unless their horse mother carries the same gene, so if you notice a faint cross on the back, chances are you are looking at a donkey. Their legs and hooves also reflect their adaptations. Donkeys have smaller legs and narrow, extremely tough hooves that are ideal for rocky, dry terrain. Mule hooves are slightly larger and rounder than a donkey's, though still more compact than a horse's. This allows them to grip mountain paths and rugged trails with excellent balance. Even their voices help tell them apart. Donkeys are famous for their loud, prolonged hee-haw sound, which can echo for miles. A mule's voice is stranger. It sounds like a mix between a horse's whinny and a donkey's bray, often broken or interrupted. To sum up, mules are usually taller, more horse-like in appearance, and have bushy tails. Donkeys are smaller, have larger ears, a cross marking on the back, and tails tufted only at the end. Still, these differences are not always easy to spot, which is why many people continue to confuse the two, a mix-up that is both common and kind of charming. Beyond appearances, donkeys and mules also show clear differences in personality and behavior, and it is these hidden traits that have shaped how humans use, trust, and bond with them over thousands of years. For a long time, donkeys have been labeled as stubborn, but from a behavioral science view, that label is unfair. A donkey's so-called stubbornness actually comes from a strong instinct for self-preservation. Unlike horses, which often panic and flee in groups, donkeys tend to stop, observe, and think before acting. When facing a steep slope, a slippery path, or anything they sense as dangerous, donkeys will simply refuse to go forward. To us, this may look defiant, but in the wild, it is smart caution that helps them avoid serious injury or death. Because of this, it is hard to force a donkey to do something it sees as unsafe. But here's the key. Once a donkey trusts you, it becomes one of the most loyal, hardworking, and reliable animals you can find. Studies show that donkeys are intelligent, have strong memories, and are quick learners. They are just more careful, so they respond more slowly than horses. In the wild, donkeys usually live alone or in small pairs, not in large herds. This solitary life has shaped their calm, independent, and self-reliant nature, traits still easy to see in domestic donkeys today. Mules, on the other hand, carry a unique mix of traits from both donkeys and horses. People often say someone is stubborn as a mule, but in reality, mules are usually less stubborn than donkeys. Thanks to their horse genes, mules are more energetic and agile than donkeys. But thanks to their donkey side, they are also calmer and less prone to panic than horses. This blend creates an animal with a rare balance of personality, strong but not reckless, smart but not impulsive. Mules are known for having excellent memories and the ability to remember routes. They can recall paths, dangerous terrain, and work routines for a long time. When carrying heavy loads or moving along mountain roads, mules show incredible patience and endurance. They walk steadily, adjust their pace as needed, and rarely panic or abandon a task. So the idea that mules are stubborn is actually a misunderstanding. They are not defiant. They are highly self-aware and cautious, traits that people often misinterpret. When horses, donkeys, and mules are kept together, people often notice a natural social order. Horses tend to take the lead, donkeys stay at the lower end, and mules fall somewhere in between. It seems that mules understand their unique place, flexible enough to get along with horses, but calm enough to bond with donkeys. In fact, there have been reports of mules taking turns standing guard while the rest of the group rests, a behavior that shows high social intelligence and responsibility. In terms of strength and work, it is no surprise that both donkeys and mules are considered the silent transportation workers of humanity. Donkeys, despite their compact size, are incredibly tough and can carry 20 to 30% of their body weight over long distances. Their digestive systems allow them to survive on very little food, efficiently processing rough forage, which helps them thrive in dry, rugged environments. In many developing countries, a single donkey can be the livelihood of an entire family, pulling plows, carrying water, or hauling goods to market. With proper care, a donkey can live and work for 30 to 50 years, which shows just how resilient this animal truly is. Although mules can do everything that donkeys can, they are often chosen for tougher jobs and more extreme terrain. Thanks to their hybrid advantages, mules are stronger, more enduring, and more stable during long journeys. A single mule can regularly carry around 200 pounds of cargo, or about 90 kilograms, and even more for short periods of time. Mules also require less food than horses of the same size, yet they can work for longer hours. Because of this, from ancient times to the modern day, mules have been used as a strategic transportation force, from farms and canals to battlefields and steep mountain trails. So, what do you think is the easiest way to tell these two animals apart? Let us know your answer in the comment section below. And do not forget to share this knowledge. Who knows? One day it might just come in handy on a long road somewhere.